not to do that. Hi, Lloyd.
Ya. Y vamos a grabar aquí y muy buenos días. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you guys are well. We have, perdón, we have some real hands-on. We got some sports-related number practice today. Yay. Yeah. I actually found a great video site, but sadly it was one of those sites that plays once and then will not play again because it wants me to create an account and pay a lot of money per month. But it gave me a great idea. And that's all that really counts, is that I got my idea. Okay. So we're going to practice some numbers with listening comprehension. And we're going to do a lot of practice with, kind of vanilla flavor verbs. And by vanilla flavor verbs, I mean the ones that are used so commonly in everyday speech. ¿Dónde está? Where did my... Here we go. And I'm going to show you the verb screen because we'll get to that second. And if you pull that up, if you're the type of person who does not like to print out, but you do want to pull that up, it's these sets of verbs. Okay, so we're going to do some of these together, some of them in smaller breakout groups. Okay. And we'll do some of those exercises together as kind of a warm-up and then send folks off into groups. Okay, so if you need to pull up a file, that is the file that we will be using, but we're going to start with numbers. Vamos a empezar con números. Y aquí tengo que arreglar un poquito. I need to manage my screens a little bit here. You should have something to probably just jot things down with. And this is going to be, scratch paper kind of stuff. Nothing super formal. Okay. Vamos a practicar con los marcadores de partidos de fútbol americano. We're going to go with some football scores. Yay! Marcadores are scorers.
These would be very large numbers, man.
Yeah. So what's the point of this? This is just to see if, okay. Actually, the very good point of this is that if you listen to the radio or the TV, it's very, very typical to hear recitations of numbers, not just in commercials, but for things like sports scores over the weekend, temperatures around the state, around the country, all that sort of thing. And so we're going to start with some practice with some sports scores, okay? Because if you were listening to the radio, this is something you might typically hear. So I want you to kind of jot these down. And actually, it'll give you some kind of interesting vocabulary as well. In terms of how we talk about winning and losing games. Yeah. Okay. Marcadores de deportes, kind of sports related stuff. And we're going to pull the little squares away to see if you got the scores right. And notice when you say somebody beat somebody else, you can't look up the verb to beat in Spanish because to beat, well, actually you could if it gives you context clues. Usually it's termed as ganar, somebody won over somebody else. Okay, instead of beat, the first thing it'll come up when you see beat is like, batir, like beating batter in a bowl, and that's not the kind of beat you want, right? You'd have to look for the context clue that says beat as in a sporting event. Okay. Partido de fútbol americano en la liga universitaria. This is university leagues, right? Okay. Michigan. Wow, Michigan es el equipo número 2. Es el equipo número 2 en la nación. Michigan ganó a Nebraska. Michigan ganó 45-7. Michigan ganó a Nebraska 45-7. Ok. ¿Y cuáles son? Y son estos. 45-7. Ven, see how we're going to do these? ¿Sí? Bien.
Okay.
Vale. Bueno,
Okay.
segundo. Penn State, que es el número 7 en la nación, es el número 7 en la nación. Penn State ganó a Northwestern 41-13. 41-13. These kind of numbers, if you heard them on the radio, they would go kind of quickly. You know, they wouldn't repeat them a whole bunch of times. 41-13. Okay, vamos a ver. Let's see if you got it right. 41-13. Bien, bien. Bueno, siguiente. Moving on. Minnesota ganó a Louisiana. 35-24. 35-24. Y vamos a ver. 35-24. Bien. Siguiente. Maryland ganó a Indiana. 44-17. 44-17. A ver, aquí. Bien. Bueno. Purdue ganó a Illinois. 44-19. 44-19. Aquí. ¿Bien? Vale. Ok. Fantástico. Siguiente. Rutgers. ¿Dónde está Rutgers? ¿Alguien sabe? Anybody know?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. De verdad. Ok. Vale. Bueno, Rutgers ganó a Wagner. ¿Y dónde está Wagner? No sé. Uy, qué marcador. Wow, what a score. Rutgers ganó a Wagner 52-3. Pobre Wagner. 52-3. 52-3. Uy. Un fracaso total. That was a blowout. Okay. Georgia ganó a Auburn. 27-20. 27-20. 27-20. ¿Sí? Muy bien. USC, Universidad de California del Sur, ganó a Colorado 48-41. 48-41. These are some high-scoring games for football, ¿no? Sí. Bueno, Kentucky, siguiente. Kentucky ganó a Florida 33-14. 33-14. 33-14. Así. Bien. 33-14. Y Bowling Green ganó a Georgia Tech 38-27. 38-27. Aquí. Bien.
Ay, ¿qué hacemos, no?
Bien. Okay. Vale. Kind of a break from the price practice kind of thing there. See? Bien. Bueno. Y una última práctica, la última práctica. Y todos esos números estaban en el periódico de domingo. These were all in the Sunday paper. Okay. Y es de la liga de béisbol. La liga de béisbol. Okay. Baseball leagues. And these are all mixed in. And I didn't take every single score, but we've got teams. Tenemos los equipos a la izquierda. We've got teams on the left, see? Y partidos ganados, which are the number of wins. Partidos ganados, the wins, versus the losses. This is for the whole season.
Okay.
Para la temporada. For the season, ¿sí? Para la temporada de béisbol. Fracasos son losses. We've got the win-lose record. ¿Sí? Vale. Bueno. Fracasos are failures. Okay. Bien. Y para toda la temporada, this is for the season to date. When we talk about seasons for sports or season for apple picking or that kind of season, we use the word temporada, which kind of has buried inside of it a form of the word tiempo, time. Temporada is a season for doing something. There is a different word used for the 4 seasons. Yeah, if we talk about the 4 seasons of otoño, invierno, primavera, verano, okay, fall, winter, spring, summer, then we use the word estación. Estación is season, as in the 4. But a season for doing something is called temporada. Okay, Baltimore. Partidos ganados, 100. Partidos ganados, 100. Fracasos, 60. You're going to hear we're doing some little bit higher numbers here.
They didn't put, that's not enough games for the whole season.
Es lo que noté esto de Arizona Republic. No sé. Es demasiado, es un número. Oh, that's a low number. Okay, you're the expert. Tú eres el experto. Okay, vale. This is what they list on, and they listed their betting site. Does that affect what the numbers were? No sé. Okay, vale. Well, just practice. Here we go. Okay, vale. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. ¿Cómo se llama el equipo de Tampa Bay de béisbol? No sabía que tienen.
The Rays.
Bien. Vale. Bueno, Tampa Bay. Partidos ganados, 97. Fracasos, 63.
You must have looked, this must be from Saturday's newspaper.
De domingo. This is from pulled out of Sunday.
Or it doesn't include, or it's Sundays and it doesn't include the night games from Saturday. Both of these are 2 games short, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. 97 y 63. Bueno, Minnesota. Los Twins, ¿sí? Bueno, Minnesota, partidos ganados 86 y fracasos 74. Así, 86 y 74. Bueno, vale. Detroit, los Tigres. Detroit, partidos ganados 77 y fracasos 84. Aquí, bien, bueno. Texas, partidos ganados 89, fracasos 71. Vamos a ver aquí. Well, if I get this number wrong, Mark is definitely going to know. Okay. Houston. Según el periódico, according to the newspaper, Houston, 88, partidos ganados 88, fracasos 72. Aquí, ¿bien? Vale. Bueno, Atlanta, los Braves, partidos ganados 103. Y fracasos 57. Así, bien. Bueno, siguiente, los Phillies de Filadelfia, el equipo de Filadelfia, sí, tiene como partidos ganados a 89 y fracasos 70. 89 y 70. Vale, dos más. Los últimos dos equipos, Milwaukee, 91. Y fracasos 69. Aquí, bien, sí. Y por fin, el último equipo es Los Ángeles. Los Ángeles tiene partidos ganados de 99 y fracasos de 61. Así, ¿bien? Vale, bueno. Ok. Escuchar los números es la cosa que necesitamos mejorar siempre. Siempre tenemos que mejorar la escucha de números. This is something we always need to work on, the whole numbers thing. I'm going to give you one last little thing here. Temperaturas, because I want to stay in the double digit category here. And I'm going to give you a listening numbers homework that is going to just go all over from super easy beginning of the video. You're going to think this isn't even work to, harder stuff. But bueno, temperaturas, and we'll see how many of these temperatures you get. Y son las temperaturas más altas. I think these are the highs forecast. Son para hoy, sí. Atlanta está a 75 grados. 75 grados Fahrenheit, claro. Ok. La ciudad de Boston. En Boston está nublado y está a 68 grados. Chicago también está nublado en Chicago y la temperatura está a 75 grados para Chicago. Bien, Dallas, la ciudad de Dallas tiene nubes aquí y allá. Dallas está a 78 grados, 78 grados. En Denver hace fresco en Denver. Está nublado y la temperatura está a 62. 62. Detroit tiene una temperatura de 73, 73. Hace calor en Detroit para octubre, sí, 73. Es una temperatura muy alta para Detroit en octubre. Las Vegas, wow, Las Vegas tiene la temperatura de 62. 62. Una temperatura muy parecida, similar, una temperatura en Los Ángeles. Los Ángeles tiene 60. 60. 60. En Miami, hace calor en Miami, 80 grados, 80 grados. En la ciudad de Nueva York. En Nueva York, la temperatura está a 71, sí, 71, 71. Phoenix dice que tenemos 73 con algunas nubes. Some clouds, 73. Y por fin, la última ciudad en la lista es Seattle. Seattle, en el estado de Washington. Y claro que está nublado. Of course, it's cloudy there. Seattle tiene una temperatura de 51. 51.
Cool.
51. Let's see how many you got right. Let's sing the temperatures. There we go. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Mejor, better. Es más fácil de leer, a little bit easier to read. Okay, vale. Bueno. Let's see how many you got. A lot of these, listening to things like temps and scores and all of that are things that you do hear a lot in any kinds of news reporting. If you flip on the radio or turn on the TV station too.
What I found, like when I used to travel a lot, was that watching TV and listening to commercials, when at the end of the commercials, they'd always talk about their phone numbers.
Oh,
that's where you get, because sometimes they would like do each digit individually, and sometimes they put them in groups of two, or they say like double two, and it was like it was always kind of fun just to try to figure out what.
Yeah, a lot of those wind up getting doing them in like pairs of 2-number combinations. That's pretty common. Yeah. Okay. Eso es, sí. You're exactly right. And this will be the video you're going to listen to. And actually, it does kind of a run through. She goes on the street to ask some people things about numbers. And so you'll hear a very wide variety in this video, but it'll be a fun and good thing to do for homework, just for listening. It won't really give you a quiz, but and I think the subtitles are always turned on there, but there's also a subtitles box. So no sé, don't know. You can pull that up as needed. Bien. And actually next week, we're going to take something that will be kind of similar, but it's going to be kind of a fast thing. It's going to be somebody, filling out or answering questions to join a gym. Okay. So you're going to hear things like addresses, giving an address, giving a number. You're going to hear somebody get something wrong because they heard it wrong. And it's going to be a normal thing for somebody to get wrong. I'm going to quiz you next week on why do you think the native speaker got that number wrong? I think it'll be kind of obvious, but yeah. Okay. A ver. Muy bien. Bueno, entonces, moving on here. I hope you had fun before we start our practice. I hope you had some fun with the michelada listening drill. I am not sure I am quite up for that spicy a drink, but hey, I believe she had a lot of nosotros examples in the video, did she not? Yeah, see, what we do to fix this. So this was not about any grammar thing in particular, just seeing that you could follow along what the little story was. And it was sort of a quickie recipe for a drink that they like. See, michelada, and I think she's holding up a Michelob. Así que sí, michelada. Yeah, I kind of borrowed the name for the drink, I think, from that beer. Muy bien. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any kind of question about the video? Something you didn't get that you need explained? Creo que no, pero... Okay. Bien. Bueno, siguiente. Entonces, so what we're going to do is we're going to flip to some practice on common verbs. And, this is actually a very good little, not little, it's a very long list from Babbel on common verbs. And, these are things that just get repeated over and over in any typical conversation. And the kind of nice thing about this is that it also gives you a lot of conjugations there for presente, yeah. And you'll notice, one thing to notice about a lot of these common verbs is that there are an awful lot of irregulars with these common verbs. But that happens, I'm pretty sure, in most languages. And, some of the things we use the most wind up being things like tener, right, which gets the go. Hacer gets a go. But yeah, only one form gets the go kind of conjugation. But, tener is a stem changer. Hacer is irregular only for yo. Ir is irregular all over the place because, everything starts with a V. One of the little mnemonic devices I would give my 15-year-olds when I was in high school classes was you go in a van. And because they all remember that ir means to go, you go in a van, and they would remember they all begin with a V. Yeah, van. Boy, but don't pronounce it like van. See? Voy vas, vamos, vais, van. Poder, again, a stem changer. Poner, another one of those go verbs. Okay. We're going to give you actually for homework a listening comprehension next week that will focus a little bit on a lot of these common irregular verbs. It's going to be a video that has loads and loads of irregular verbs, like just plopped into place all over. So, a lot of verbs wind up being irregular. Ser, estar, tener, hacer, poner, poder, be able to, saber, which is, and notice some of these are only irregular for yo. So, when we say a verb is irregular, it can be irregular as in something consistent, like a stem changing pattern, O to UE, E to IE, it can be kind of spotty, as in only the yo form gets an irregular form, but everything else follows the patterns of regular verbs, like saber, yeah. And so, like poner, yeah. The only thing you will have to be careful of with this list is this verb haber. Haber is an oddball verb. It means to have, but it's not like tener. Okay. So I want to kind of clarify from this Babel list, which I gave you, this verb out of all of them, we kind of almost need to take out. And you'll notice I did not pop it into any practice because haber has two uses. Haber means to have, but not in the sense of possessing. You know, I have pets. I have 3 bathrooms in the haus. Yeah. I have a light I use for recording. It's not that kind of have as in possession. Haber is used for have. One of the uses for haber is to use in what they call the perfect tenses. So when do you want to say, I have written 5 emails to this company. I have seen many birds in the backyard this morning. She has called me several times. What is her problem? So somebody has done something, or some people have done something, that kind of have. It is what they call an auxiliary verb in English. It is a verb that works together with a second verb in a combination. So that is one use of haber. But the use of haber you do use a lot is not this what you see in the chart. It's what they call the impersonal use of haber. And the impersonal verb use of haber, it means we're not tagging a person like yo, tú, nosotros onto the verb, but we're using it in a very generic sense. And that form of haber goes into only one word, which is I. I comes from haber, and they don't show that on the chart, but it is an oddball kind of verb in that it has an impersonal form, right? Hay 3 plumas. Aquí, there are 3 pens here. O hay una bolsa en el suelo. There's a bag on the floor. So I is always used only in that one form, and it's to talk about existence. So haber is an odd verb in Spanish, is that it has 2 kinds of uses. The impersonal, which you learn right away as only I, and then this compound tense kind of auxiliary verb kind of function, okay? And don't worry about all these forms yet, because we use haber to talk about the near past, okay? So we aren't going to go there yet. But decir, querer, another a stem changer. Decir is a stem changer essentially as well, and it gets another go form. Hablar regular, dar, which is only irregular for yo, doy, but then all the rest follow the AR verb forms, right? Das, da, damos, dan. Ver, again, is a little bit irregular. It's veo, not bo, but veo. But then everything else follows the pattern, so it's irregular only for yo. Comer, muy regular. Tomar, muy regular. Vivir, muy regular. Necesitar, sí, regular. Quedar is a little bit of a special, well, quite a special verb. We'll talk about a quedar another time. Quedar means to remain or to stay or to be left over. It has a bunch of different uses, right? So do know that it is regular. It is listed by Babel as one of the top 20. And that's probably accurate. I will give you one use of quedar, which is practical. Quedar has many, many, many different uses. Often, one of its uses is to stand in as an alternative for está, to talk about location, only to talk about location. So I'll give you an example of quedar, which would be like está. El banco está en la calle principal. It's on a main street. El banco está, right? Located, and you say the name of the street, you know. El banco está en la calle 8. The bank is on 8th Street, okay? But somebody may rephrase that and say, I don't feel like using estar because I already used it and I don't want to repeat it again. And so I'm going to use quedar instead. El banco queda en la calle 8. El banco queda en la calle 8. That is one and only one use of quedar as a substitute for estar, talking about location, like for buildings, you know, or objects. Okay, vale, so that is helpful there. Let's do some practice all together, and then we'll do some small group practice. Tengo que engrandecer esto. I need to make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to read for those of you who can't bring up two screens. We're going to see if you can come up with some examples of things here, and then I'm going to send you off to do some practice. So we're going to start with these verbs, see? We're going to maybe finish the sentence, and I gave you a couple examples, yeah? Finish a sentence, and we're going to take a look at these all together. Decir, to say or tell. Mi esposo o mi esposa me dice, tells me, que, tells me that. But something is happening, right? Or that something is out there or whatever. Mi esposo, por ejemplo, here's an example. Mi esposo me dice que tiene que hacer ejercicio. My husband tells me that he has to work out, exercise. That he has to exercise is this part. That he has to exercise. There's some information after decir, yeah? And so there we go. O mi esposo me dice, ¿cuándo vamos al parque? My husband is telling me when we're going to the park. Okay. Anybody got a different example of these?
I do.
Go
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Laura.
All right. Mi esposo me dice que no debo comer tarde de la noche.
Shouldn't eat late. Muy bien. Excelente. Bueno, Marcos.
Well, here's real life. Ayer, mi esposa me dijo que le duele la cadera.
Bien, la cadera, hip. Sí. And he put that in the past. Sí. Sí. Bien. Bien. So yes, and we often say somebody tells me or they told me, and told me is the past. Para que sepan, so that you know, it looks very, very odd in the past. So to say told instead of tells, it is this, dijo. Wow, D-I-J-O. That is really odd, but that is the way we put that verb into the past. Okay, otro ejemplo con dice.
Mi esposo me dice que camino demasiado rápido.
Eso sí, too fast. Bien. Bueno, a ver. Okay, siguiente. Let's take a look at dar. Siempre le doy un poco de dinero. I always give a little bit of money to. And the reason we have that word le in front of doy is meaning I give it to somebody or an organization or, you know, whoever is getting the money is referenced to or referred to with this little kind of a hangnail sort of word, which is le. Le will refer to whoever gets the money, not I am the one giving it, doy, right? But whoever is on the receiving end. Ok, por ejemplo, siempre le doy dinero a la organización ASPCA, ASPCA, por ejemplo. Ok, otro ejemplo. Hay otro ejemplo.
I have one. Siempre les doy una buena propina a los camareros.
A los camareros, sí, bien. And you change that to a les, fantástico, because now that it's camareros, waiters, more than one, yeah, les doy una propina. And she was more specific than dinero, money. She substituted the word propina, a tip. Yeah, the extra money you give after good service. Excelente. Bueno, hay otra idea.
Siempre le doy una propina a nuestro cartero por Navidad. I hope I got the right word. Cartero
Al
mailman.
cartero mailman.
Sí.
Sí, durante sí, antes de la Navidad. Bien, bien. Sí, al cartero mailman. Los carteros tienen un empleo muy difícil. Mail workers have a really tough job. Ok, bueno, hay otro ejemplo.
Siempre le doy dinero a la small train.
Bien. Ok. Siguiente. Adelante. Moving on. We're going to talk about saber, and I want you to use sabe, not the yo sé, I know, but somebody knows. And when we say know how to, this how to is not translated as a general rule. Okay. It is built in, essentially, okay? Mi mejor amigo o mi mejor amiga sabe. My best friend knows how, and then we're going to tell what they know how to do. And all you need is to pop in an infinitive of some kind, ¿sí? Como en el ejemplo aquí, mi mejor amiga sabe hacer la mejor torta de queso. My best friend knows how to make the best cheesecake. La mejor torta de queso. Sí, sabe hacer. I could have said knows how to make. I could have substituted cocinar because you do cook a cheesecake. I think there are some no-bake recipes, but yeah. O sabe, if I wanted to be really specific, hornear, bake a cheesecake. See, I could substitute that for hacer. Okay, otro ejemplo aquí. Any other example?
Could I ask a question first?
Sí.
I used to always when I would I would throw in como between the conjugated form of saber and the infinitive. So that's wrong. I don't need sabe como hacer.
You don't really need the como there.
Okay.
Yeah. Por ejemplo, no sé reparar un auto. I don't know how to fix a car. No sé reparar un auto. O, por ejemplo, mi esposo sabe inflar las llantas de las bicicletas. My husband knows how to fill the air in the bike tires. Sabe inflar, ¿sí? Las llantas, the tires, ¿sí? De las bicicletas. Por ejemplo, O por ejemplo, aquí como. Mi amigo sabe tomar fotos de manera muy profesional. My friend can photograph things like a professional in a really professional way. Bien.
Gracias.
Sabe tomar fotos como fotógrafo, like a photographer. Eso, así. Bien.
Bien.
Okay. Otros ejemplos. Any other examples here with saber and an infinitive?
I have one.
Let's take Marcos first, and then Linda, we're going to take you.
Okay. Cuando no queremos cocinar, mi esposa sabe hacer reservas.
Okay. Bien. Muy bien. Y Linda?
Okay, I can't beat that.
You don't have to beat anything.
Mine is very boring. Mi perro sabe nadar muy bien.
Muy excelente. Sí, buena. Todos los ejemplos son muy buenos. ¿Sí? Any other examples with saber?
I have
Could
one.
Mark repeat his again? I
Sure.
didn't quite get all of it.
Okay. Cuando no queremos cocinar, when we don't want to cook, mi esposa sabe hacer reservas.
What was the
Hacer
last word?
Last word is, I had to look it up too.
Reserva.
My wife knows how to make reservations.
Make reservations,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, reserva. Oh,
Sí.
reserva.
It's like the old joke.
Reserva.
What's and pick the person you want to use. What is your whoever prefer to eat or prefer to cook or to make? Sorry, and the answer is reservation.
Yeah. Sí. Es,
Good one.
es un chiste. It's a joke. Eso, sí. Vale. Bueno. You may hear that as hacer reservas or hacer reservaciones. There are a couple different words used for reservations. Just reserva works, and reservación, which sounds a little closer to reservation, in its entirety of its form, is okay too. Fantástico. Okay, vale. And I think everybody got the idea quite well. We're going to get your examples with these two, but I want to send you off into some smaller groups to work on this for, I don't know, maybe about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. It'll be kind of short here, right? See, but we're going to have you use now in a smaller group format, tener and poder, tener y poder, to have. And this is the have that is actually possess, okay? Or remember, tener is used in lots and lots of idioms or colloquial expressions that don't translate exactly. Bien. And poder, to be able to, and that's the only translation that gets. So we've got one of the idioms here, tener frío, to be cold, but we can't use be. We have to use tener with people experiencing a bodily sensation. Yeah. Tenemos frío cuando, tengo frío cuando voy al norte, sí. And tener que, which I guess technically that's one of the idiomatic uses too, to have to, but you need that little word que. Tener que, después de la clase. Tengo que descargar el video después de la clase. ¿Sí? Bien. So, tener is used in loads and loads of idioms. So, you're going to have a couple of different examples there. This might only really take about 3 minutes if I break you into groups, because it'll be a group of 3 and a group of 2. I am going to send that screen into your breakout groups. Okay, so you don't have to like furiously copy notes. It'll take me a minute to open that. Okay, yeah, you'll need to hit your join button, and I'm going to hit my screen share button there. Aquí viene. Here we go. Okay. Excelente. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Welcome on back. Okay. A ver.
Can I ask a quick question of the
Sí,
group?
claro.
Did anyone else get some kind of a Windows Defender security kind of announcement
No,
when we got off into the breakout rooms?
no.
No.
It was really weird. When I first started to say okay, then it wanted me to put in my administrator password, like something was going to get modified, and
Wow.
I
No.
just chickened out. So okay.
No.
Wow. Okay. A ver. Okay. Gracias. Thank you, Mark. No sé. Okay. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any question you had on the examples you used or something you weren't quite sure of?
I had one question on
Vale.
number 6. I wanted to say that I'm able to watch football, and I wasn't sure whether ver or mirar would be the better verb for that.
Ver.
Ver.
Although, depending on the region you're traveling to, you once in a while do hear mirar. There are a lot of textbooks that will use mirar because that's watch. That is the watch verb. But when we talk about shows, programs, stage events, generally more places, I think, use ver.
Huh. Okay.
Really? So I was
Yeah.
totally wrong. Sorry, Mark.
And this is that dichotomy between, even though mirar means to watch,
Yeah.
generally for a program on TV or for a staged event, ver is usually what is used. I can't really tell you why. It is just, that is what most use. It's not to say that you would be misunderstood if you said mirar, but some people do find that odd. But you will once in a while hear mirar. But again, I think it's kind of a regional thing. Usually it's ver. Buena pregunta. Really good question. Hay otra pregunta. Any other question on your examples here? No? Bien. Okay. Vale. Siguiente. Moving on. We're going to have, this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be straight question and answer. And in this, when you go off in your groups, and I'm going to change out your groups a little bit so you get mixed up with different folks next time around, hopefully. In this one, you're going to ask a question and answer. So you'll want to take some turns. I don't want one person to ask all the questions and never do the answering. You get what I mean. Mix it up. This is going to be a longer breakout group because it'll have 5 questions, right? 5 questions. See, aquí. Tomar, right? Tomar has many uses. Tomar is one of those verbs that is used in lots of situations in Spanish. Tomar is to take, like take a vacation, take a bus, take the subway. It's also take as in you ingest something. So tomar is a substitute for comer and beber. Tomar is even used to say to make a decision. Tomar una decisión. So tomar has many uses, but one of the most common ones is for eating and drinking. It is commonly used for that. So you're going to talk about...
Now, before you send us off, can I just ask a question on number 1?
Sí.
I mean, I see the phrasing of de desayuno, for breakfast, but why is it de rather than por desayuno?
You would totally be understood if you said para el desayuno, and that would be okay too.
And it would be
I'm going to put our para word.
Para rather than por?
Yeah, never por. Yeah, and that one, it would never be por. But para, you might hear somebody using para. Para el desayuno, for breakfast. And sometimes de. And that's one of those funky preposition things,
Mhm.
you'll hear it phrased a couple of different ways, and they'll both be understood. Okay. But we've got tomar, ir, to go, poder with hacer, what you can do. Okay. And probably when you ask and answer this question, that hacer is probably likely to come completely out and get substituted with a different verb, right? What can't you do in the morning? Okay. For example, I can't run in the morning. I can't run in the morning. And I would take out hacer and put in a correr. Okay. If I did that. ¿Qué haces los viernes? What do you do on Fridays? Again, you're probably going to take hacer out and plug in a totally different verb when you answer it. ¿Qué tomas? And we're going to have tomar and tener hambre here. This is going to take a little bit longer. I think I need to give you probably a full 5 minutes here, maybe even 7 might be fair, because you should have a different number of or different great variety of ways you can answer this. Okay, a ver. Bien, I think you should have your join button up. I will send the screen into the rooms. Oh, 2 minutos más. We're going to give them 2 more minute extension on that for 5 questions. It'll take a little bit longer for folks to comfortably work that and feel that they all have adequate time. Okay, we're going to give everybody a minute to come back in. Okay. Esperamos a 2. We're waiting for 2 more folks to come on back.
2 or 3?
Oh, perdón, 3. Sí, eso es. And that tiene sentido. That makes sense.
I have to say this in English because I can't say it in Spanish. But my group, we've decided that we're both geniuses.
Ah!
We did excellent. Okay.
Me alegro mucho. I'm so happy. Me alegro de oír esa opinión. I am so glad to hear that opinion. Okay. A ver. Bueno. A ver. Y excelente. Bien. Let's see if you have any little questions. Any questions or great examples that you have from doing that?
We had 2 questions in our group. The first one was in one of my answers. So we were looking for, just to confirm, what's the right phrase for iced coffee? Because we were a little confused with, I tried café helado.
Helado, sí. Como té helado, it would be iced tea. And iced coffee, is that like the last 15, 20 years that started to kind of be more, especially here where it's so darn hot all the time. Iced coffee is a thing, see? Café helado, sí. Café con hielo. Sometimes as con hielo.
Okay.
Con hielo with ice. So I'm going to caution you one way here, because actually I saw this on one of the videos I previewed. Especially, I'm not sure if you go to Mexico, if this will be the case, but I know in Spain for sure. If you ask for an iced coffee in Spain, what you'll get won't look like what comes out of the Starbucks. What they'll bring you is a cup of coffee and then a separate glass with ice cubes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll add that in and wait for it to,
Get cold.
yeah. So, la manera de servir un café con hielo o un café helado, sí, es un poquito diferente. Depending on where you travel, that may not be served the way it is here, aquí en Estados Unidos, para que sepan, so you know. Okay.
Another question on that.
Sí.
So is helado is also ice cream, though, is it not?
Helado also means ice cream. Sí.
Okay.
El helado, just helado. El helado. Okay. Right. Qué buena pregunta. What a good question this is, because I'll type this in really quickly here. When you see helado, there are two ways you may see helado used. El helado, a ver, really helps to have your fingers on the right keys. El helado. El helado is a noun, ice cream. But that word by itself, helado, is iced. Descripción. It can be a description. So helado serves a couple purposes depending on the context in which it is used. If it is used as a noun, el helado, ice cream. But helado as a description means that something is cooled off, iced, chilled. Yeah, chilled. Okay, bien. Y es buena pregunta. That's a good question, because actually sometimes these words get used in as different parts of speech, essentially. Okay. Bueno, hay otra pregunta. Is there any other question you have about this, or a great example that you want to share?
Well, we had another question in the group on question number 5. Two of us, Karen and I, each wanted to say that we have a piece of fruit, and we had different words for using for piece. So what was your suggestion there?
It might be just una fruta. It might be, perdón. Let me pull this back up again. If you cut the fruit into pieces, which is kind of a more European thing, if you have something like a peach or an apple, to just eat it whole is not as common as cutting it up first. It might be listed as trozo, a piece. A slice. Yeah, meaning it's been cut up. See? You might hear the word pieza. Pieza is sometimes used as piece as well, but trozo really gives the idea of it was cut off from a bigger whole of a piece of fruit. See?
It seems like in English we say, I'm going to have a piece of fruit. I always think of it as the whole apple or the whole.
Yeah. In English, I'm going to have a piece of fruit. It's often going to be a whole apple, a whole orange.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe it shouldn't even use piece of fruit.
Una fruta. See, or name the specific fruit. That'll be more common, rather than, that idea of a piece of fruit.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be more like they'll name the fruit, or una fruta, alguna fruta, some kind of fruit. Alguna would mean some kind of. Una fruta would mean this quantity, just that many, right? But alguna would mean, some kind. I don't know which kind, like saying in English, a piece of. So alguna fruta is probably the best example there. Okay. Buenas preguntas. Good questions. Let me send you off for your last half. We're going to have ver, to see. Ver again. What are you going to do tomorrow? What do you have to do in October? Some kind of chore or task you have to do in October. And what do you have when you are thirsty? What do you have when you're thirsty? Okay, bien. Again, I'm going to switch up the groups a little bit. I'll send you out with, and you'll see the screen shortly. Bien. Nos quedan 2.5 minutes. See? We've got about 2.5 minutes left to go. Vale, voy a presionar el botón. We're gonna get the button going here to close the rooms, give people time to come back. Muy bien. Excelente y bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Welcome on back. Okay. A ver, bueno, entonces, let's take a quick spin here, see if you've got, are there any great examples you want to share or questions you had about, didn't quite know how to plug in an idea?
Well, I think
No.
Karen and I discovered that we're both addicted to Coke Zero in question 10.
I stopped it though. I don't drink it anymore.
Oh,
Yeah, it became something that I could not stop drinking way more than I should have, and I don't know why. Whatever it has in it is not good for me.
Es así. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Bueno, I want to point out one thing. Let's take a look. Vamos a ver. Perdón. Sí, Lori.
I just had, I'm sorry, one quick question. I wasn't
Está
sure
bien.
if I needed that. So I said, veo to the question 7, veo gente que no conozco. Should it be veo a gente or?
Eso sí. Veo a gente. I'll write it in here so you can see. Veo a gente. Sí. Veo a gente. I see people. And whether that's general, like, Tom, Dick, or Harry, kind of gente, or a person with a name that you actually know, no importa, doesn't matter, right? We need that little a personal, which can't really be translated. It's just that when a human being receives action, we put an a in there. I want to show you another example of when that a personal can happen. Veamos número 6. Let's take a look at 6. What do you see from your window? Let's see that Linda sees Bear from from her window. Yeah, because he's out in the backyard. Okay. Veo a mi perro. Veo a mi perro. That a personal is also used for the animals we love. Yeah. And an animal that is domesticated. Even if it's not the one you own, if it's a domesticated animal, generally it'll be an a personal. Okay. Whether that's a bird, a dog, a cat, a turtle. Here, you get the occasional folks with, una tortuga. So it's also used for beloved pets, not generally for animals that, are not part of a household. Okay. Bueno.
Marilyn, I have a question because I used some gerunds in my answer, and I wanted to know if I used them right because I just plugged them in.
Vale,
and it was on number 7, and I said, veo a mucha gente bebiendo café y usando su computadora.
Perfecto.
I can use that like that, right?
You can use the ing.
Okay.
This is okay. Karen, qué buena pregunta. Sometimes I caution you, we don't always use the ing in Spanish the way we use the ing in English. Okay. So let me show you 2 different examples. The obvious, el ejemplo obvio. La gente está tomando café. People are drinking coffee. La gente está tomando. Perfecto. Okay, everybody knows that one. But she used the tomando café as in, here's a description showing you in motion what those people are doing. And she buried it a little bit into her question, which we do a lot in English. Veo a gente tomando café. I see people drinking coffee. And we cut off the estar. You can do that because the people drinking coffee just describes them. That's an okay use of ando. Veo a gente tomando café. You can also phrase that as veo a gente que toma café. That is also okay. Here's how I cannot use tomando. Cannot. Tomando café es muy común. Drinking coffee is very common. Now I'm talking about drinking coffee as actually the subject of the sentence. In other words, doing this activity is common. When we do that kind of structure in Spanish, we cannot say tomando. It's got to be tomar. Tomar café es común aquí en Estados Unidos. Tomar café por la mañana, in the morning. Tomar café por la mañana es muy común. Okay, bien? And that is the kind of tricky little part with when you can do tomando, which Karen, you did correctly. And then when we cannot, okay? Buen punto. Gracias. Any other little questions that you've got before we wrap up and give you instructions for the week? ¿Sí o no? Nada. Okay, vale. Bueno, siguiente. Moving on. You will next week. We'll continue to give you some I'll give you some prompts. You'll get a link for that with the email after class. we'll have some prompts with some regular verbs, but you're also going to listen to a video that will use some common verbs that wind up being kind of irregular. And I want to talk a little bit next week. I want to touch a little bit on when is does not use a verb for is. Okay. I'll give you a quick example. When is won't use a verb that you recognize as is. You recognize is as ser or estar, right? And that's bad enough. Isn't that just bad enough?
Yeah.
Ser and estar. And that's very common for English speakers in particular to really, well, a lot of people who learn Spanish, not just English, but from other languages, to say, this is a terrible thing to have to decide between ser and estar. But we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show you, actually, I think I'll send you this because it's not really like a drill, but it just illustrates why we can't translate word for word and why we need to know just what Spanish verb usually, or what Spanish phrase usually is going to be plugged in to express an idea. It won't always be what you expect. And you think it's bad enough that ser estar, but for example, when you say somebody is right or is wrong, there are different ways to say that in Spanish. And they're going to have different implications. It'll be a little simpler when we do this in class, but por ejemplo, for example, tener razón is a way of saying you're right, but it doesn't use is. It uses tener. And it uses one of those colloquial phrases. And these are, again, a part of those groups of common verbs that you hear a lot. Okay. Also, you may hear to say you're right or you're wrong, estar with equivocado. Which means to be incorrect, okay? Estar equivocado, to be wrong, to be wrong. But notice that this is very interesting. When you decide between, like, no tienes razón, you're not right, and estás equivocado, you're wrong. Well, you're not right and you're wrong. They convey the same idea, right? But there's kind of this cultural layer above that. No tener razón is a little nicer. You're being nicer to the person than if you say, estás equivocado. That is like direct and in your face. You're wrong. Estar equivocado, to be wrong. So estar equivocado is a more kind of in your face way of saying that. And no tener razón is not, it's kind of essentially more polite. Okay. In some situation, it doesn't necessarily mean you're being rude, but it's a stronger term. So, for example, if you're at an office and let's say somebody didn't give you the right change or something, actually, estar equivocado might be a little more appropriate because you're saying, hey, something isn't right here. And, it's more direct, but in a good sense, because you need to get it right. Yeah. Versus tener razón. So we're going to talk a little bit about when is won't plug in a word as is. Okay. And use some examples there. to express it, to kind of distinguish between some of these ideas in Spanish. And this kind of really goes directly to that whole thing of we need to know which groups of phrases work together in the right context. Mm-hmm. So whether we're talking about bodily sensations with, tener in some way, tener frío, tener calor, versus talking about weather, which might use a bunch of different verbs. So we're going to look at some of those bigger groups next week. When isn't is. Bien, okay, vale. ¿Todo bien? ¿Alguna pregunta? Any question before we sign up for today or no?
No.
No. Fantástico. Muy bien. Entonces nos vemos el lunes. I'll see you guys back on Monday. ¿Sí? Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Adiós.